Japan is dumping more than 10,000 tons of radioactive water from the Fukushima plant into the Pacific. Officials say this is a necessary step to free up storage space for more highly contaminated water. The government says it'll not harm human health or the environment. Well, let's talk about this with an independent nuclear energy consultant, Sean Burney, who will be joining me hopefully from Hamburg. Now, we understand that about 12,000 tons of radioactive water have been released into the sea. Is it really as harmless as the government is making out?
Absolutely not. And any other normal circumstances, the release of such volumes of water would be described as catastrophic. I think I'd like to draw attention to the fact that in 1993, when a Russian vessel was spotted off Vladivostok, discharging nuclear waste into the Sea of Japan, the Japanese government was outraged and led the charge for a ban on all nuclear dumping at sea.
So what will be the effects then? I mean, people are worried about the fish and the seabed being contaminated. What could be the long-term or indeed the short-term effects at the moment of what we're seeing happening there?
Well, the ocean currents in that part of Japan mean that in the first instance, the contamination will spread north and south of the coastline from the Fukushima power plant, which means to the very coasts that have been devastated by the earthquake and the tsunami. So that's going to add to further unease on the part of the people living in that part of Japan. Longer term, the radionuclides, particularly cesium, which is a half-life of 30 years, plus also other radionuclides, will persist in the environment for many, many decades. They tend to concentrate in large volume of water passing animals, such as shellfish. So those are called filter feeders, is where it will concentrate, as well as in seaweed.
Well, the workers there at the moment, this is all down to the fact that they've got to keep the water flowing into the reactors to stop them overheating. But then, of course, they've got to deal with the accumulation of that wastewater, which, of course, is contaminated. They say there's no other choice. But do you see another way out? Are they doing the right thing from what you can gather?
I think it's very difficult to judge whether they're doing the right thing from their own, because they're the ones that are faced with this nuclear disaster. Certainly, they have a water problem. They have to keep pouring water onto the reactor units, onto the spent fuel, to keep them from melting down any further. The problem is they've got a large amount of nuclear fuel that's already melted. They've got spent fuel that's uncovered and not in pools of water. So the more water they put on, the more problems are going to arise. And I think that the admission that they haven't really got the situation under control is what we see today.
So we are going to see further problems, do you think? This everybody's obviously been saying for the last 2 or 3 weeks that a catastrophe is about to happen, but actually nothing really has happened so far. What do you think could happen now if the picture is as bleak as you make it out to be?
Well, I think the fact is they have 3 reactors, a percentage of which their nuclear fuel has actually gone into meltdown. So our concerns over these coming days is what is the condition of that fuel melt? Where is it in the reactor? Has it actually gone through the reactor building into the environment? Those are releasing radionuclides, which we know will persist for centuries, tens of thousands of years. We hope the worst doesn't happen, explosion, releasing an even larger amount of radioactivity into the environment. But they've got such huge problems. I think what we'd be more interested in is a bit of honesty to say the scale of the problem that they're facing is really beyond them at this stage.
Well, shouldn't they be getting more help, though, from the international community?
Well, I think the problem is the international community, for example, the International Atomic Energy Agency, they've tried to put a distance between themselves and Japan by saying we're only an advisory when it comes to nuclear safety. A nuclear conference opened in Vienna today, 72 governments, basically saying that their reactor operations are safe. I've read the Japanese government's document, which was prepared last September. According to them, they don't have a problem. According to the situation today in Fukushima, they have a catastrophic problem. So there's a complacency on the part of the international nuclear industry. I'm sure that the US, Russia, Korea, France, they're all trying to do their best. The problem is this technology is inherently dangerous.
Clearly, Fukushima, eventually, when all this is over, will have to be closed down. But is there any past history or experience on how to deal with a nuclear power station that has been retired? Is it the sort of thing that has to be buried, covered up forever, a no-go area? What is the future of an area like that?
Well, the Japanese government and the nuclear industry don't really want to talk about this being another Chernobyl, and we're coming up to the 25th anniversary at the end of this month. The closest comparison is, in fact, Chernobyl, and the efforts to control the releases from that site go on. We know about the sheltering operation that's still not being funded properly. There are major problems in terms of the long-lived nature of that shelter. 25 years after Chernobyl, they're still struggling with the contamination on the site and the threat of further releases. Fukushima is 3 reactors and many, many more tons of spent fuel than is contained in Chernobyl. So this is an issue we're going to be talking about probably for the rest of the century and beyond.
Sean Burney, very interesting to hear what you have to say. We appreciate your time here on RT. Thank you indeed for joining us here. Independent nuclear energy consultant joining us there from Hamburg. Thank you.